Talking Music with Big Andy. Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Music with Big Andy. It's been a little while, been away a bit, but this week I have with me the two. I can't remember your names. Sorry, my brain is going. Femi and Saro Manukian from the band Rum. Hi guys.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining me on the show. Now, I haven't been able to find out anything about you at all. So
Yes.
we'll start off with the basic thing is like sort of who are you and where do you come from and what sort of music would you say you play?
Femi, I'll let you take it away.
Oh, so we're originally from London, but our names kind of come from Armenia. So we have Armenian Lebanese heritage. Um, and I feel like the music we play, I feel like it's a different, each album that we're kind of working on has a different style on it. So we've only got one album out on streaming platforms, which is Beneath the Giants. And that is kind of very 80s inspired with a lot of like fun synth and panning vocals, which we really enjoy doing, and it's a very fun process. But we also really like to tap into that sort of acoustic, sort of Cat Stevens, Billy Joel sort of music. Um, so we're kind of looking
The
at
latest
towards
single
that
kind of taps
sometimes.
into that. Yeah.
Yes, it
Wow.
does. 19 taps into that sort of world.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so kind of anything and all. We don't really want to shoehorn ourselves into one specific genre.
Okay.
That
And
makes
I think at
sense.
any given point to sort of add on to that, we're not really specifically making certain types of song at any given time. At least I don't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Femi, but I think at any given point we're sort of working on this melting pot of different sounding tracks, some that seem, very acoustic, that, maybe 70s songwriter inspired, then others that seem more electronic based, like first album was. So it's not like we're doing one thing at one time, but more doing a bunch of things all the time and then slowly putting them in playlists where we think, okay, these two seem like they're in the same world. Maybe
Mhm.
Right.
that's a project to think about. Which I
Right.
think it's fun. I find it quite an exciting way to work.
Yeah.
So are there any specific bands or artists that you would say are your influences, musical influences, not just your personal sort of like likes or dislikes? Are there any that have influenced the sort of music that you are making?
I mean, I feel ABBA is a big inspiration for us, and we like their sort of song structures and the sort of world of sound that they're in. So I like to tap into a bit of ABBA. Sarah and I really grew up on Pink Floyd, so I feel like some of that world taps into our music, at least from people that have listened to it who've came back and spoke to us about it, have
Right.
made that sort of link. which has been entirely subconscious because I don't think throughout any of the songs we were making, we were like, yeah, let's draw on this Pink Floyd reference. It just kind of fell into that sort of world. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like very subtly though, because Pink Floyd is very different to the album that we've put out.
And it's
Yeah,
so funny watching sort of retrospective links being made where, I would say one influence, even though you probably don't hear it at all in the first album, at least for me, because I've always been sort of piano based as a songwriter, would be, Elton John and Billy Joel and
right.
Stevie Wonder. But I don't really think you hear any of that in the record.
Yeah.
No,
People have said that
no.
they go, oh, that first album sounds a lot like Enya, and Enya was not anywhere in my thinking at all. But then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that's true. Actually, it does have a sort of Enya vibe.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, the first album, and definitely the first few tracks that I heard, which were sort of like drew me towards you, a very kind of electronic pop sort of sound.
yeah,
Um, and there are the first two tracks I heard, which were Modern Poets and Streetlights, to me definitely have kind of overtones of like orchestral maneuvers in the dark
yeah,
kind
Yeah.
of thing. That's feel to them, and I don't know, and even maybe early Human League stuff.
yeah,
That kind of, the first Human League album had that kind of um slightly more electronic side to it and that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, are they things that you kind of listened to when you were growing up, or?
It's so funny you mentioned Human League actually, because more on the production end of things. When we'd finished recording, I think, because Modern Poets was the first song we worked on with the intent of releasing as a single. It was always kind of the front runner, I think, of that project. And our kick drum sound just wasn't cutting it. I remember at one point, we were listening back and it really does start with that sort of thumping kick and it has to punch through. And we looked closely at Don't You Want Me by
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a reference point for how to get a good kick sound. I don't know if it was as good as Human League. I don't think it was, but that was yeah, one of our objectives was okay, it's got to sort of cut through the speaker like that. And yeah, it's funny. It's yeah, funny that you mentioned that. It was such a specific example that
Yeah, no,
like,
I mean, there are like echoes of those throughout that. The other. The other one was the other one of the first three that I heard was those two and Open Your Arms,
Hmm.
which is more of a kind of a pop ballad. It's not quite as electronic as the others. And in actual fact, for me, I was listening to it and I thought this wouldn't sound out of place on an Adele album,
Yeah,
but also it
Oh,
kind
wow.
of had echoes of the Cocteau Twins.
I don't think I know the Coxo Twins
I don't
actually.
think I feel like I've heard the name the Cocteau Twins kind of get thrown around, but I don't think I've ever listened to any. But the Adele reference is it's I've never thought of it that way, but now that you've said it, I'm like, hang on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Really
So
kind of like
it's
picture
not completely her style, but as I say, I don't think it would sound out of place on one of her albums.
yeah, because it was
Yeah.
the track that we worked on, even though I said Modern Poets was the one that we intended to release first. Open Your Arms was actually, I think of that batch, the first one we ever wrote, right?
Yeah, so it's very old. I feel like I mean, I think I was around like 14 and you must have been what, 14, maybe, like 17,
Yeah.
Sarah, when we
Yeah.
were
With no
kind of
intent of releasing it
with
anyway.
no intention of releasing it.
Yeah,
But
and
it,
then it
I
sort
mean,
of found its way.
it has a slightly less electronic, more kind of singer-songwriter vibe to it, I suppose, than
Mm.
the other two tracks.
Yeah, the arrangement is much more acoustic. I mean, there's guitar. I don't think there are guitars anywhere else in the album, actually, now that I
No,
think
I think
about
it's
it.
just that
It
one.
might be the only track which features acoustic guitars. Yeah,
Yeah.
string arrangement. It was more that sort of vibe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
So then so when were they recorded? When did you put them out? Because they came out before the album.
Yeah, that's true. So I think Modern Poets, did we release in February or March last year? Or sorry,
Some
earlier this year.
I feel like somewhere around that time, quite early on this year. Because Modern Poets was the first one, and then we released Streetlights, and then Open Your Arms, and then the full
It's June,
I
I
want to
think,
say the
or
full
July.
album. Yeah, full album came out around July time.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, so kind of everything sort of happened this year for
Yeah.
us in the sort
We
of
haven't hit the
musical.
1 year anniversary.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been fun.
Wanna run away. I wanna get away. So please don't let me down, 'cause I swear I'll make you proud. So please don't let me down. I'm here when you are around. Running through the street like someone's gonna save you. Running from the street lights, nothing's gonna save you. Running through the street like someone's gonna save you. Running from the street lights, nothing's gonna save you. I wanna find a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the full album came out, which is Beneath the Giants.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now the title track of that I found really interesting because there's some really interesting and different kind of tonal um and beat and tempo changes within the song,
Mm.
which it kind of it's different to a lot of the other stuff on the album because of that. And I just wondered if there is if there was a specific reason for that, or was it just because it's a bit more. I don't know if it is, but it sounds a bit more like it's a kind of a more of a story to it than the other tracks, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, with that song specifically, it was originally going to be something completely different, same set of lyrics, but the song itself was so wildly different. Like it was very much like the rest of the songs on the track, like with a beat, you could probably dance to it. Um,
More like Michael Jackson-y, I would say, like
yeah,
sort of that
Right.
that sound. Well, not as good, but
yeah,
that's
and
wild. Yeah.
yeah, and I think we were just really struggling with it. Like the rest of the songs were kind of done, and we just kept listening to this one song over and over, and it just really wasn't working. Like something just wasn't right. And so I think we just decided to scrap it and start afresh with a whole new outlook on it. And I think, Sarah, I feel like you suggested the whole slow it right down, make it about the story as opposed to the
Yeah.
beat and movability to it.
Because we were just sat there, and I think it was the one that we completed the quickest. I think we recorded that, sort of mixed slash mastered it probably in like 3 days, which is quite a quick
Yeah.
turnaround for blank Logic project to a final WAV file. But yeah, you're right. I think we looked back at the lyrics and went, um, at least for me, because I've got more of like a classical training. I thought the story was so good because Femi's lyrics are like really powerful and like moving in a sort of abstract way. Um, and I thought it kind of had a like Schubert song vibe to it, where you're right. We wanted there to be that flexibility, or maybe more akin to like musical theatre in a sense, where we
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah,
to focus a
storytelling.
little more
Fine.
relaxed, as if it's just a soloist and a pianist or some sort of duo relationship, even though it is a bigger production. That was I think, like flavor we wanted to go for, and it was just the most sort of relaxed recording we'd ever done, I think. I don't
Yeah.
know how much harmonization goes on in it from memory, if it was mostly
A
just a
lot.
single line.
I think
Uh,
it's just a single line with some sort of like electric piano sort of synthy padding underneath it, and obviously that really gorgeous sort of string part to it. But yeah,
Almost like an
it's
aria. It was just sort
an
of like
aria.
person in
Yeah.
front of the audience. That was kind of the image we then went for,
Yeah.
which was so
Yeah.
different to what it was before.
Yeah, and it was like the prelude to the rest of the sort of more ootsy songs on the album.
And
Yeah.
it's where the name came from as well. We were suddenly like this very last track that we had done, which was almost an afterthought, but then became so important. And we were like, oh, that line's yeah, that line's good. We could stick that on the cover.
Yeah.
Seems- that seems right.
So I mean, what is the actual kind of breakup of like who plays what? What do you do within your group?
I would say it's yeah, we each track is slightly different, which I know is kind of a cliched answer, but I would say on the whole, it's usually Femi writes lyrics more or less in isolation, I would say, a lot of the time. Just these stories. Uh,
Mm.
even though this is not really the case all the time, but then Femi will send me the lyrics, or show me the lyrics. Usually I'll put together something just out the piano. I'll play in the melody, just like an electric piano, because I'm not a singer. Um, and send it back to Femi. We're usually actually working quite remotely, even though it's best when we're together in the room. That's always the most
Yeah.
fun. And
Or
then
like
it's
sometimes
yeah,
I feel like it's the completely other way around, where Sarah will send me a demo of like
mm,
sort of an instrumental track, um, basically saying, here's an instrumental track. I think this would make a really cool song. Would you like to write some lyrics to it? Like I
Yeah.
feel like Into the Blue was the instrumental before it was a song.
yeah.
And it was one of the kind of like we wrote that one in the room, like the track was there all together, but we wrote the lyrics in the room in accordance to like how many syllables that needed to fit for this bar and
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, so kind of either or, working outside in or inside out.
Sometimes, yeah, it's like the line either it's yeah, you're right. I think it is 50-50. Sometimes it's the melodic line is there first and we fill in the gaps with words, or Femi's just written this like poem. Um, and it's about putting it to music. And
yeah.
then sometimes we're just in the room together and sometimes,
Yeah.
but I would say that's actually probably rarer, which is might be strange. But,
Yeah.
we just yeah. And then in terms of who plays what, Femi covers the bass, covers all the vocals. And then I sort of fill in the gaps basically. And
Okay.
drumming, even though that project didn't have any live kit on it, apart from
Yeah.
open drums. If we are doing that sort of drumming or acoustic playing, I think we don't really allocate anyone to it. It's just sort of I
Yeah.
know the track we worked on recently, which isn't out yet. It would literally be one verse. I would do the drums, and then Femi would go, "I've got an idea for the chorus actually." Then she would hop on the drums, and then slowly we'd have this drum part, which was stitched together from two people, and then hopefully, if it was played live, someone would just have to learn.
Yeah.
But it actually made it very interesting then because each section had a different kind of flavor because it wasn't just one person
Yeah,
go. Not that there's anything wrong. I mean, that's how every band works. There's nothing
Yeah. I
wrong
feel
with
like we're
that. It's just funny.
quite
yeah.
Just an
No,
interesting sort of way of doing it.
I'm going to try and pick up on a few points, different points that were made. Okay. You're recording. Is it all done at home, or is
Yeah.
it? Do you? Oh, you don't actually go into a studio. It's all done on a home thing.
Yeah.
And do you record together, or is that done sometimes remotely as well?
Always record together. I
Okay.
think sometimes Kimi will send like a voice memo just to put into a track as like a placeholder.
Okay.
So we can start building around it. But yeah, we always record together.
Okay. Okay. So I was kind of trying to pick up on bits that I remember you saying about playing live. Have you not played live at all, uh, or have you actually been able to get out there and do some gigs?
We've been able to do like a few just piano vocal sort of gigs around where I live. Um, but it's very like background music. Sarah will play and I'll sing, and
Right.
it'll be an amalgamation of the album and covers, because they'll want like 3 hours worth of music. But I don't think we've ever done like a proper gig of just rum tracks with a full sound.
Right.
Yeah,
There's
we
one
haven't
coming
done.
out, even though it won't be the full sound, it'll be reduced. There's got
Yes.
I'll let you go do the pitch.
Uh, so I, so obviously both me and Sarah are Lebanese, and so obviously what's going on in Lebanon at the moment is
Yeah.
quite close to our hearts.
Yeah.
So I've kind of curated an event on the 7th of December to raise money for this charity called Beit Al Baraka. And it's essentially raising money for displaced families in Lebanon. And I thought it'd be like a really nice open mic, get loads of people involved, but also me and Sarah will do a rum set at the end of the event. And it'll still be a sort of just piano and maybe a bass and guitar interchanging whatever I
Okay.
can play. But just the two of us on stage essentially. Um, so that's happening. Yeah.
So
One way of arranging. Yeah.
whereabouts is that taking place?
That's gonna be around Canary Wharf,
St.
sort of.
Anne's Limehouse. Yeah.
Yeah, St.
Okay.
Anne's
I believe it's called the Crypt. Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Uh,
Is there a website or a link or something that people can go on to get
yeah. We can send you.
tickets or anything for?
Yeah, we've got a post on our Instagram page kind of with all the details, and
Okay.
the link for tickets should be on our website in
And it's in the
our,
bio. In the
our
bio.
bio.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's cool. So yeah, I mean, if anyone listening wants to go and support them and do that, then I'll put the link up so that people can do that as well. So that yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's been shown in the past. Music is a great way to get to people, to help people connect with these things. So I think it's a really good idea. Okay, moving slightly away from that, the other thing I wanted to say was that I really the track Beneath the Giants. I don't know why that one in particular, but I really like the vocal tone on that. It really fits really well with the song. It works really well. The way the sound of the vocals on that and the vocal line just really works well.
Oh.
I march across the land, a mother with a rose in hand, a parking lot where he was shot. Oh, Billy, where'd you go? Oh, Billy, where'd you go? As he stepped out the car, his luck ran away fast and far. I heard a blast, he fell so fast. Oh, Billy, where'd you go? Oh, Billy, where'd you go? Didn't think he thought it through, but what is a man to do? Nothing really left to lose. Scary when his mind goes mad, power shaking in their hands. Should have seen how fast he ran. When he was a child, he would stare at nothing for a while, finding all the answers in
You have a new single out called 19.
We do.
The first
do.
thing I thought as soon as it started was, oh, they've started playing country music.
Yeah, that is yeah, bang on. That's exactly how we felt as well, I think.
And it was a bit kind of like, it was a bit of a jolt, really, because I wasn't expecting it at all. Not that it's a bad single or that it's a bad song at all. I really like it, but it was just kind of was a bit out of the blue somehow
Yeah,
after all of this kind of electro stuff to then have this kind of
yeah.
almost country sort of single. I just thought, oh, that's odd.
Gotta
I
keep
think
on your toes.
the reason for that is because the next sort of full album, let's say we're working on, is more akin to the sort of sound world of Beneath the Giants. It's still got that electronic sort of drive to it, let's say, but is leaning. It's somewhere in between that and more of a rock sound, I think. And so we had this single 19, um, which we initially had attached to another project, which is going to be a lot more acoustic, folk based, sort of smaller sound, if that's the right word. But we wanted to release it while at least Femi was still, because I think I wrote the lyrics to that when I was turning 19, but then I very much outgrew the song. And then Femi was 19, and I was like, great, while you're 19, sing this. This will be so cool. So we tried to get it out while it was still relevant. And yeah, we actually just thought this won't work on our next project. We'll have to wait until the third one where it would fit a bit better. And so we thought this can just be its own little world. You're right, it's so detached from what we did before. It's kind of detached from what's coming up next. It might just catch up with the third one. But you're right, for now it's just this
The
little
Easter egg.
pocket world of what it was, and we just thought let's just let's go
And
for
I
its
mean,
different flavor.
as I say, I still think it's a great song. I just think it was a bit kind of like a little bit sort of stepping outside of what I was expecting. I don't know,
Yeah.
it's weird. Uh, but
Keep
you
them on their
when
toes.
when somebody throws a track like that in, you kind of go, oh, hang on a minute,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
this?
it was initially, I suppose the closest link it has to the previous work is probably Open Your Arms, even
Open
though
your
you're right,
arms.
that still had a bigger sort of sound to it and felt connected. But
Mm.
yeah, yeah, I think that's funny. It does just come out of nowhere, like, okay, this is different.
See, I'm not old, but I'm not young. Maybe I'm just too high strung. But pain is pain, and it's real once it's begun. Oh, I feel I'm a hollow shell. Nothing to me, nothing to tell. The clock is ticking. Don't wanna hear the bell. 'Cause by the time I reach tomorrow, which is now, 'cause it's midnight somehow. Oh, I'll be 19 and not one step closer to my dream. Oh, I am 19 and not one step closer to my dream. I've wasted time, that much is true. Spent too long thinking things through. At a point, I know I just needed to move. I spent too long deliberating. Oh, I'm still sitting here waiting for my life to be handed to me on
Right. So the next project, when is that going to be out?
I think
I
we're
think we aim to kind of be working on it throughout Christmas sort of period. Um,
we'll probably aim for July again. For the full record,
yeah,
I think July,
July.
which is what we did last time. There's still some bits to work out, but it's getting there. I'd say it's about a solid 70% of the way there, which is
Yeah,
reassuring.
and we'll probably do the same thing like we did last time. We'll probably pick three from the full album to release as singles and kind of work on them kind of taking priority um in the sort of recording schedule. Um, but yeah, I think sort of a similar time frame as
Yeah.
this one,
Sort of on an annual basis.
annual basis.
Um, so do you have a working title for it at the moment, or are you still thinking about that?
We do have a
Yeah.
working title, but I wonder if you also remember it being the same thing for you.
Okay, why don't you say it and then I'll say what
At the same
I'm
time.
thinking.
I thought it was burnt.
Burnt. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So can confirm that is still the working title.
Still the
Could
working
change,
title.
um, could change like the day before, but for
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
because we
yeah.
did work with like this color theme actually is an interesting point. The
Yeah.
first record was initially going to be called Steel because the album cover was this steel blue. Um, and that was kind of it was actually a way I think we had of categorizing
That's
demos that
right.
were written. We would just go,
Yeah.
it's got a steel vibe. This one's
It's
got
like,
this
what color
burnt
is
look.
this?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. 19 was in one that's still called Teacup. So like this teacup teal kind of thing that we were going for. Uh,
right. Yeah,
but then when we were coming to release the first one, we did suddenly think, I think we're retrofitting this title onto it.
Yeah.
Like even though it's been helpful
Put on
for
the
us
nose.
to categorize, it doesn't really
yeah.
like make an awful lot of sense anymore. So we went back to the work, even though it was helpful for us to get there. But Burnt might stay. I think
That might stay because
it's
it's
more
relevant to one
relevant.
of the songs that's in the bunch anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so that one might still work. But who knows, we could get one day into recording and
But
everything will
I
change.
completely understand that changing titles the moment, sometimes literally the day before you record them. It's just it's
Yeah.
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 And just
Something doesn't feel right.
naming songs is so funny because you're sat there being like, right, what letters should we capitalize and how many is this title too long? Do we need to cut it
Yeah.
down? Do we have it all caps or lowercase? Like, what does it look like on the page?
Yeah.
So many
It's
weird
it's
things
a
to think about.
it's one of the two major things I think that you go through when you're putting a band together is firstly, what are you going to call the band? And secondly, what are you going to call the songs? Because they all matter to a lot to a big degree as to
Yeah.
how the whole thing comes across. Taking that up, the name of the band, Rum. Now,
Yes.
there are many things that rum could mean or could have to reference. What in particular made you choose that name for the band?
Oh
God.
man. Oh man. It's really so essentially years ago when we were really like kind of a lot younger and we were trying to figure out a band name. Sarrow, well, we first of all, we were originally going to be called Regal, and then Sarrow went on to do this really cool sort of digital R sort of thing. It was like a really nicely drawn R. I don't know how you did it, Sarah, but it was like, do you know what I mean? Like
It
it
was
looked like it was the first letter of like a ye olde sort of
like in
novel.
Shrek, yeah, when they
Yeah.
opened the
Yeah.
box. It was that kind of vibe. You didn't
And
actually.
then we kind of realized that Regal wasn't really sticking anymore. We weren't really enjoying it. Like every time we said it, it felt like we were some sort of techno house band.
It sounded like a
It
DJ.
feels like
Everybody,
something that would be
yeah,
associated to that to that
yeah.
name. But obviously, we still had this really nice R that we just had,
Which we
and
haven't even used. Which is
and
what's so
it
funny.
wasn't even used in the
Yeah.
website or anything.
Then
But
the word rum, honestly, there wasn't a major story. I'm trying to track
no, we
back.
were just looking up words. We were just looking up really nice words that began with
I
R.
suppose we like rum. It's pretty good. Um,
I think we were just kind of cycling through different fun words that begin with R, and we landed on rum. We were like, yeah, that'll
this
do.
I wish there was a deep story. We should try and
I
invent one.
wish.
We'll
Yeah,
come up with. But
try and invent an origin story.
we were like,
It's always good.
it was
Uh,
revealed to me in a dream. Yeah. Well, what's
yeah.
actually kind of funny, this is, I guess, really boring, but because I'm still studying in London, I'm at Royal Academy of Music, which is RAM. So on my laptop now, I've got this
Oh,
big folder which is RAM, and then one which is Rum, and I'm
All
constantly
right.
like clicking the wrong one. I'm like, this, we should have just done a different band name. Sort of save it.
oh man. Oh man.
I'm constantly looking like, is it or am? Like, where am I at?
Well, I mean, must admit, not being able to find out a lot about you on online, I thought to myself, are they Scottish? Do they come from the Scottish Islands? Because there's an island called Rum. And I
Oh
thought
yeah,
maybe
we'll say that next time.
Yeah, I'll say that next time.
Yeah,
I thought maybe it was something to do with that, and then I don't know. It just
it was
and I
just
wondered if they were initials that stood for something,
yeah.
But
Yeah,
We'll
no,
find
I wish
something.
there was a cool story. It was just a cool word, and we were
no.
like,
To be honest, I think
yeah,
sometimes it's the it's one of those things of like sort of. Let's stick a dictionary on the wall and throw a dart in it and find out what
honestly,
it
Yeah.
returns.
yeah. If it just feels right, you're like, let's go for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it's so hard. It's really tricky. Band name.
Yeah.
Another funny story is that when I initially released Modern Poets, when I was doing the kind of distribution of it, there was some sort of glitch which happened.
Oh man, yeah, I've
Where
heard of that.
they mapped our track. So this is our first single. So we were, nervous, sort of excited. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a big, big moment. And for some reason, they connected our band Rum with this other band, which was, I think they were an REM sort of spoof band.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and I think they had called themselves RUM as well, but with
RUM, yeah.
dots in between.
Right.
Mm.
So Apple Music, whatever, the algorithm thought that we were them, so sort of attached our single to their
Oh
metadata.
no.
And so I was initially looking at it, which would be fine, and it would be sorted out in like a day, right? Because you send them a message, they go, "Oh, sorry, we'll separate the two." Um, but what it was doing was it was saying, "Oh, Rum, Modern Poets, more by Rum." The first thing that came up was this track, this spoof track, which this REM band had made called "Losing My Erection," and
Oh
we were like, we can't
I'm
no.
like,
we
oh
can't be
no.
connected to this. This is like going to our parents and stuff. We were like, how do we, as quickly as possible, not to discredit, listen, they probably have one
Listen,
band. I haven't actually listened to that track, but I was slightly
it's
mortified
just not
about
up.
it.
Yeah, that's not the best thing in the world, is it?
No, no, it's a furious sort of like emailing to Apple Music and Spotify to be,
Oh
we're
wow.
not
And we were
them.
like sending that link to like everyone so everyone could listen to it. It's like, oh God, freaking everyone's gonna see.
Luckily, no one made the connection. I think it was sorted quick enough, but we were just like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the first release as well. Like it
That's
was,
good.
and we didn't want to tar their name as well. They had a,
Yeah, my
they had
God.
a, they
They
seem to have a good
probably
thing
want to be
going.
associated
Yeah,
with
it's
us.
it's a funny track, but
So
yeah,
you, you got the album up on the album is all up on YouTube and all your tracks are on YouTube.
yeah.
You're also on Spotify and on uh,
Apple,
Apple Music, so people can find your music there and have a listen to the whole thing there.
yeah, should be on
You're on
Amazon as well.
Instagram. You're on Instagram. Are you on Facebook or are you? I haven't seen you on Facebook, but
I don't think we haven't attached to Facebook. No, maybe one was made by default when we made the
Yeah.
Instagram account, but yeah, I guess we've not really been Facebook users to an extent, but
no. Well,
Instagram's
it
been
kind
our
of
kind of thing.
it's a bit old hat now, isn't it? Facebook.
It's a little bit, yeah. It's not been relevant yet, I think. But it probably will be. We'll get on it. But
if you want
Instagram in the kind of short, sharp, people sort of grab things quite
if you
quickly.
want to if you want to get noticed these days, you've got to be on TikTok and things like that. If you
So
want music noticed,
Yeah.
we've
We're
got like
not like I don't think either of us are like really a big social media sort of people. So like we're
no,
you get loads of artists on TikTok really promoting their music like with themselves, doing like dances to them and being in the videos. And we were like, don't really want to do that.
no.
Uh,
and our
so
Talking
numbers
about
reflect it.
talking about that. At the moment, all the stuff you've got on YouTube is it's the tracks with just the cover of the album single on it.
Yeah.
Are you planning on doing any kind of music videos, or would you like to do some videos
I
for
think we've
tracks in the future?
spoken about it. There was a track
yeah,
for you, Lula on Overload, which is on Beneath the Giants. And I remember Phoebe, you had a good sort of vision for it. We
yeah.
haven't done it yet, but it's
I
more
think something I think we're quite interested in is like if we do music videos, kind of not having us in them,
Yeah, yeah, no,
just having like making it sort of like a story sort of thing. I'm in this sort of acting and theatre sort of world,
right.
when I'm not doing rum things. So I'm really interested in that sort of storytelling, just visual storytelling sort of world. And just because of the nature of the industry that I'm in slash about to go into, I've got a lot of friends and people that I know that are in the world, like people that are interested in filmmaking, people that are interested in acting, people interested
Yeah,
in lights and sound. So it's quite a good industry to kind of already be immersed in to kind of explore with Rum in the music video sort of world. So yeah, I feel like if we were to do a sort of music video, people in videos are just not just rain on a window, um, sort of videos, it'd be interesting to do it sort of without us being at the foreground is
yeah,
something
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
interested
and maybe
in.
to create more of a sort of larger project out of it would be kind of fun because
Yeah.
sort of Rum aside, we both are pursuing quite different musical journeys. Rum is just like our fun meeting point where we get to make
Yeah.
friends and it's fun. Femi's
That's
moving
cool.
into the sort of musical theatre world, in part, and a bunch of other things. I'm moving more down the sort of film scoring, um, orchestral route, let's say. So it would be really cool to make, instead of just a music video, more of a film in a sense, based off
Mm.
of the song, sort of expanded out, utilizing both those skills. We haven't actually thought about that. That's actually a good idea. Should do that.
I must admit,
We actually
there
think
were
about that seriously.
there were a few people in the 80s that did these things that were almost like they did short films which were almost like video EPs. So
Yeah,
you had like a story that went through the whole film, but it encompassed three songs that were
yeah,
Yeah,
that they were
I think
releasing. So
that.
it was the whole thing was a showcase for the EP.
yeah, yeah,
So you could
Yeah.
put the EP out as tracks and then do the short film encompassing the three songs so that you could do it as a narrative story
yeah,
in which
Mm.
the three songs are kind of showcased.
yeah. That seems
That
very much more like our kind
Yeah,
yeah.
of.
more
I
about
don't think
what.
the music videos sort of make us cringe a little bit in terms of like the traditional music video is something that I think
Yeah, no,
is
I
more daunting.
mean, I think a lot of the things, well, to me, the band playing the song either on stage or out in the middle of nowhere, or especially on top of a building somewhere, is really been overdone so much that there is nothing you can do with it anymore.
It's not that engaging. At least, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it works for some, but I've never found it particularly engaging. I
No,
think,
I
Yeah.
think
especially considering there's so much more you can do. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you were saying,
narrative storylines within a video work really well,
yeah,
and I think they work a lot better.
yeah, because it's an
Yeah.
opportunity to sort of be creative again with the material you have, rather than just, okay, this track is done. Now we
Yeah.
just kind of lip sync to it, which is, fine, right? And it works and it achieves a purpose, but why
Just
not
could
try
picture
and
us doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I'd
Mm.
just yeah, I would kind of cringe at it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Because of the nature when it comes to the sort of performance element, because Andy, I heard you kind of touched on the performing um on top of a building. Um, because you get a lot of um music artists these days that are just sort of singers and they just get on stage and they've got their band and dancers or whatever, and it's just kind of them. And that's not really something our music sort of lends itself to, or it's not really what we want to do. Like I'd want
No.
to we would want to be on stage together. Sarah would be playing piano. I'd probably be playing bass the whole time. So quite a stationary duo
Yeah.
is what we are. So we don't really lend ourselves to that sort of
But it's interesting you say it
style
because
world.
I mean one of the things that came to mind when you were saying about not wanting to necessarily be at the forefront of the video was the fact that a number of they don't do it all the time, but especially earlier on, the number of the Pet Shop Boys videos, there were things going on and they were just kind of standing in the background.
Yeah, cool.
They were kind of like there was
Cool.
the videos of them just standing leaning against a wall while everything's going on around them.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that a lot. That's really cool.
Uh,
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
So, that they
work with
don't
them.
actually do anything within the video.
They're just like there.
They're just there,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
quite a clever idea. And going back to REM, I think there's one of their videos where they don't actually appear in the video, but they're on a poster.
That's good. Yeah.
Their album posters are all around the wall, all on the walls down the street as people are walking along and that kind of thing.
Yeah. But they don't
Very
make an
cool.
appearance. Amazing. Yeah, like that kind of thing is very much more up our alley, I think.
Yeah, I
Afraid
mean,
of the limelight.
hey,
Yeah.
it's so. I mean, I'm assuming going forward that you'd like to do some more live stuff and things like that. I mean, I don't know because you don't have to. Obviously, there are plenty of bands nowadays, especially that don't do live things. They just work on purely on release of albums and things like that. So, is that something you'd like to do going forward?
I think definitely. I think it's
Yeah,
very fun as well
sure.
with the sort of different restrictions that different venues would have would be quite exciting because it's quite a big sounding record, I suppose, the first one. And there's, a lot of elements, a lot going on. if you wanted everyone to be covering all of the electronic parts, you'd either need one guy with a lot of keyboards or a couple of people maybe covering it. Just because at the time we weren't thinking about it as
Yeah.
performative in that way. It wasn't like a band
We
recording.
were
But
just like, that's gonna sound cool.
yeah, and in that way, when we've done the gigs that we've done in Sidcup around sort of Feemy's College, having just the restriction suddenly of piano and vocal, which is how the songs always started, but then just got yeah, piled upon.
Mm.
It's a nice opportunity to go back to the core of this song. And for me it was always sort of important. I think for both of us it was really important that the songs do work with just a piano and a vocal, even though that might be hard to imagine hearing the sort of final product.
Full
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they still, I think, um, do stand in that way because that's how they started. And then sometimes the piano just got replaced with
Well,
something else. But
I mean, the amount of bands nowadays that you kind of, I think it's something that started in the 90s, I think maybe, was this thing of like, you bring out albums and they're all of these well produced, things with lots of layers and all this kind of thing. But then the best selling album you've got is the one that you do that's unplugged, you know,
yeah, exactly.
which is
Bring out
just
the essence of it. Yeah.
yeah, the basic core of the music just played live in front of a small audience, and it's just people just latched onto that, and sort of like now every band does it. Like I mean, when you've got some of the top sort of heavy metal bands doing unplugged albums, it's just kind of you got to
Yeah.
go. There's got to be something in this,
Yeah, it's true.
people want to
Yeah.
hear that.
The skeleton that was so strong, but you kind of forgot that yeah, at its core they were just really good, well considered songs,
Yeah,
which
Yeah.
yeah, became these big sounds and yeah, I suppose would have been colored by the sounds of the era, which is all cool. But
That's
yeah,
so funny. Sorry, that you mentioned the sort of metal bands doing unplugged albums because it just there's this one album which I'm absolutely obsessed with, and it's the Scorpions Acoustica album.
yeah,
I'm mad about it, and like I'd never. It was I think it's what introduced me to Scorpions was this acoustic album, and then I was listening to their non-acoustic stuff, and I was like, whoa, this is what they really are. But and but that album is it's quite moving. Some of the songs that they write without that huge amplified sound,
yeah,
you actually hear the story behind it. And all of the guitar solos are done on an acoustic guitar, which I think is such a lovely texture.
mm,
Um, but yeah,
it's
sorry, I
cool.
should that
It's
really
like
no,
quick.
no, no,
it's like
believe me,
that
I can.
live album of the Elton John live album from the USSR, I think back in
Yeah.
59, I think is even though his records are definitely not overproduced, they're so
Yeah,
finely produced, um, sort of Gus Dudgeon sound. What was amazing and definitely wasn't overlaid, but and hearing those songs just performed solo with the piano and with
yeah,
Ray on some percussion, it's just amazing because he can capture that energy in Saturday with just the piano. He doesn't need really the guitar. I mean, they
yeah,
help on the final record, right?
It helped.
But yeah, the fact that at their core they're just songs that work in the simplest form, um,
absolutely.
it speaks to that kind of yeah, that idea.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the Scorpions album is fantastic. I mean, I've always liked. I kind of grew up listening to rock and metal stuff, and I've
Mm.
always liked the Scorpions, and I've always thought that they are a band. There are a number of bands, but they're a band that have some great songs that
Yeah,
sometimes
fundamentally good
almost get
song.
spoiled by the power and the
Yeah,
kind of they'd be nicer if they toned it down a little bit.
yeah, I completely agree. Like, oh, it's such a good album. If you haven't listened to it, Sarah, come
Oh, you
on.
have to check it out. It
It's
seems
so
cool.
good.
It's sort of like a less is more approach, right? I think there was
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
talking about it, Femi, with there was a Rick Rubin interview where he was making the case, which I think is definitely true, that if you
Mm.
just record one acoustic guitar very well, and you've got that bite to it, it
Yeah.
sounds a lot bigger than five electric guitars in a room.
I
Just
mean,
one well-recorded,
yeah.
pure sound
Yeah.
If
because
you, I mean,
nothing's covering it. Yeah,
if you want to hear an album that is absolutely excellently produced and will absolutely tug at your emotions, then the album that Rick Rubin did with Johnny Cash
yeah,
is just incredible.
it's
The
unbelievable.
sound on that album is just it. I don't know. It makes you tingle listening
Yeah,
to it.
it really
Yeah.
cuts through, and it's like there's some technical things, right, that people picked up on. Like I think at points it's clipping in Hurt, which is just
Yeah,
good 100 times more than it would have had though if it was clean
yeah,
and produced.
Mm.
It was yeah, like just having one well-recorded piano, one well-recorded guitar sounds
yeah,
it's like the universe is in that. You don't need to add 100 synths, which is ironic considering and we've just released a very
We've
synth
just
album.
released.
But
yeah. Well, yeah.
it's
But the thing is, that,
badass.
as you say, I mean, at the basis, all songs are just a melody and a beat. That's
Yeah,
all any music is.
yeah,
Mm.
So, it's just a matter of if you've got a good melody and a good song, then it will work no matter how you play it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the future, you have an album that you're going to be some singles and album coming out next year,
Hmm.
and you hope to be doing some live stuff at some point. And you have the gig coming up on the 7th of December, did you say?
Yep, exactly that.
Yeah.
Cool. That's good. So we'll keep an eye out for that. I would like to wish you all the best for the future because I really like the album. I really like your music, and I think
Oh,
that
thank you.
it has a place. And there are people out there that I think with the album that you put out already, and with what you've been saying about where you want to go with music, um, there's a kind of I don't want to say a retro thing, but there are people who are becoming more interested in sounds that are in some way linked to that kind of 80s 90s vibe,
Yeah.
and because of that people are going to listen to new stuff that's coming out that is has a sorry, a tonal and quality link to that kind of thing. So I think
Mm.
your stuff will get picked up in that, and I hope that you do really well with it.
Thank you
Oh,
very
thank
much.
you so much. It's very
Really kind.
kind.
It's, yeah. It's
It's been
nostalgia for a time we weren't alive for. Yeah.
Well, no, hey, I
Yeah.
mean, I was born in the middle of the 60s and I love 60s music more than I love almost anything else.
Yeah, it
So,
just resonates, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you
Oh,
so
So,
much
thank you
for
for
having
having us.
us. Yeah, this was
and
fantastic.
Such a cool experience.
I look forward to seeing more from you in the future. Everybody out there, I'll put links up to social media and to the YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff. So check out Rum and let them know what you think if you like it. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.